Hello, Internet. I am Pastor Recoil, and welcome to my parish. Today is the third Sunday after Pentecost, and we're going to talk about it. Welcome to Pastor Recoil's Parish, where I talk about some things in the Bible that you may not have heard about in church, either because it's not quite appropriate for all audiences, or it just isn't something that's easy to talk about in a sermon. Today's readings for the third Sunday after Pentecost are 2 Kings 2, 1 through 2 and 6 through 14, Psalm 77, 1 through 2 and 11 through 20, Galatians 5, 1 and 13 through 25, and Luke 9, 51 through 62. Today we're going to talk about why Jesus doesn't want some people to follow him. That seems a little odd at first. Christians are all about making more people followers of Jesus, at least it seems that way. But it makes sense when you think about it a little bit more. First off, have you ever been around someone who just has different goals from you? Here's a rather silly example, but back in the day, I played altogether too much World of Warcraft. And much of that game has to be played in groups with other people. And oftentimes you would end up with a couple of friends about to do something that needed, say, 5 people, and you only had 3 people that you were doing it with. So you need to get a couple extra people. And when you do that, you end up with, well, sometimes you get some folk who want to take everything really seriously, and sometimes you ended up with folk who didn't. My friends and I were usually the ones who weren't taking things as seriously, and we had way too much fun in these pickup groups. Usually we had progressed past whatever it was we were doing, and we're just in it either for fun or to bring another of our friends along to experience the content. But sometimes we'd end up with someone who was doing it for real when we were kind of just doing it for fun, and problems inevitably arose because we wouldn't be trying, because we didn't really have to. And the pickup players would either be trying to impress us or trying to do the encounters correctly because they hadn't progressed as far as we had. This inevitably would lead to conflict, as we had very different goals in the run, and those goals were kind of incompatible with each other. That example was a bit silly, but I'm sure we can all relate to situations when we've been around people who wanted something different from what we wanted. That can be a date, a group project, or even that one guy at work that's just way too into something. It's hard to work with people when the goals are very different. And I think this is what Jesus is getting at in today's gospel. We have some people with very different goals, and when one of them is Jesus especially, that's going to lead to some issues. At this point in Luke's gospel, Luke writes that Jesus has set his face towards Jerusalem. He is going to Jerusalem where he is going to die on a cross. And in order to do that, he needs to make it look like he's doing the kinds of things that get someone killed on a cross. And in first century Judea, that's rebellion against Rome and treason against Rome. So he's planning to enter Jerusalem looking a lot like a king, allowing people to call him the Son of David, and then doing a whole lot to make the establishment, both the Roman establishment and the Judean establishment, mad at him. He needs to look like a rebel, even if he isn't, in order to accomplish that goal of dying on a cross. So in the gospel today, he comes first to a Samaritan village, and this village wants nothing to do with a Judean messianic candidate acting messianic in their direction. They want him gone, and I don't blame them. And really, I don't think Jesus blames them either. When a couple of his disciples want to call down fire on this Samaritan village, Jesus rebukes the disciples. The Samaritans in that village are just trying to stay safe and live their lives. And it's hard to stay safe and live your life when you're looking like you're welcoming potential rebels and traitors. Then the scene shifts and a guy comes up to Jesus and says, "Jesus, I'll follow you anywhere." And it almost seems like he just wants to be part of the shindig and to cut some Romans. He might even want to be buttering Jesus up so that he can have some kind of position in Jesus' new kingdom. But Jesus says to him, "Yeah, there's no perks where I'm going. You're not going to get a nice place to sleep. That's not how it is with me." There's some other guys who came up and said, "Jesus, I'll follow you, but I need to do this other thing." Now, Jesus knew what was going to happen to him, and he knew what was going to happen to his disciples. The followers of executed rebels didn't tend to have things go well for them. So Jesus really only wanted people who, well, didn't have anything they weren't willing to lose. Now, too often Christians make these verses about how Jesus needs to be the most important thing for us as Christians, and I think they get that part right, but it's not for the reasons that we'll often say. It's not about Jesus being super jealous and wanting someone's full commitment like a controlling boyfriend. Jesus wants full commitment because following him, especially for those early disciples, was going to be dangerous. And so he only wanted people who were 100% on board, because anything less than that wouldn't keep them safe. Because Jesus is doing something very different than what people thought he was doing. He's not about setting up some new Judean empire of self-rule and right worship of God. He's about righting wrongs, freeing of the oppressed, uplifting the poor, all these things that are threats to the status quo. He's looking for disciples who are about those things, who have the same goals that he does, because that just works out better for everyone. And that's why he turns some people away as his disciples, because they're not looking for the things that he is. They're looking for power. But Jesus is offering love to outcasts, love to those people who have nothing. And there's no power in that. So if you want to see more content like this, check out the links to my right, or click the logo below my face to subscribe so you'll know when my next video comes out. Thank you for watching, and take the time this week to love your neighbor as yourself, especially if you don't like them all that much.